In 1941, our government was getting ready to go to war against the Germans, the Italians, the Japanese, and President Roosevelt appointed a man named Curtis Munson from the State Department to get as precise a picture as possible of the degree of loyalty that to be found among Japanese and Japanese American residents on the West Coast and in Hawaii. This man sent a report to President Roosevelt, this was before Pearl Harbor, and he said, the Japanese that you're talking about are pathetically loyal. But he said there is far more danger from communists and people of the Bridges type than there is from Japanese. I came across this piece in about 1992. Harry had been gone a couple of years. And I was really angry that he wasn't there for me to share that with. By 1958, most battles had been won. Medical plan for the longshoremen had gone into effect in 1948, pensions in 52. In 1961, the M&M agreement, which is the containerization agreement, went into effect. Now, there's what they call the PGP, Pay Guarantee Plan. If you're a registered longshoreman, you can work a minimum of 2 days and still hang on to your job and make about $40,000 a year because the plan guarantees a minimum of so much money per week, providing you're available for work even though you don't work. The average pay now is $23 an hour. Harry was a very clever negotiator. In Hawaii, during the sugar talks, negotiation had come to a standstill, totally stalemated. So for 3 days, they sat and glared at each other, and the tension got very high. Harry found out that Dwight Steele, the head of the Employers Council, was having a birthday. So he went out and wrapped this thing up and gave it to the secretary. And he said, now bring it in about 11 o'clock. And she did. And he said, what's that, Dwight? And Dwight said, I don't know. He said, well, why don't you open it? So he did. And it was a silk handkerchief showing 49 different positions for making love. And Harry said, looking for new ways to screw us, huh? And that broke up the tension. Everybody laughed so hard they were on the floor. And in a couple of days, they had a contract. He didn't like to please others. He called a spade a spade. During the Korean War, at a meeting of the San Francisco local of longshoremen, he suggested that the two sides cease fire and submit the matter to arbitration, which is what eventually happened. However, that caused a big uproar because it was considered traitorous to the U.S. position that he would make such an outrageous suggestion. So he went to jail. They revoked his bail because he was out pending a Supreme Court decision on one of the cases where they were trying to deport him. And the prisoners would gather around during exercise time, and they'd say, "How come you, a big shot with high-priced lawyers, are in jail?" And so he said to one of the prisoners, "I'm a hold-up artist like you." You know, he was caught holding up a bank, but Harry said, "We don't use a gun, we use the power of the workers who are united and solid. We don't hold them up for a few $1,000s. We hold the employers up for millions." The guards would come around and complain about their working conditions. So while he was there, he organized them into the Teamsters Union. He had a refreshing perspective on a lot of things. We went to see a film called What's Up, Doc? And it was filmed in San Francisco in 1971. Well, during the early part of their courtship, they went up to the top of the Hilton Tower, and the camera does a sweep of the bay. Harry says, "The strike's on." Later on, they went back up to the tower. The romances had progressed. Again, you saw the bay, and there were no more ships. Harry said, "Strike's over." I went to the racetrack with Harry. There was a horse named J. Edgar McCarthy, something horrible like that. I said, "I can't bet on that horse." Harry said, "The horse doesn't know what his name is." When Charlie Chaplin was filming The Great Dictator, he got all kinds of threats on his life, and he was really frightened. So he called the Beverly Hills police, and they refused to do anything until something happened. So he called Harry, and Harry set up a group of longshoremen from Local 13, the San Pedro local, and they guarded Chaplin until the film was finished at longshore wages. In 1958, Harry and I went to Reno to get married and ran into an anti-miscegenation law. The lawyer, when he found out that it was the Harry calling, he said, "Are you sure you want me? I'm a Republican." Harry says, "That's all right, so am I." But we had to go and apply and be refused by the Marriage License Bureau. The clerk said to me, "What's your nationality?" And I said, "American, I was born here." And Harry says, "Yeah, she's the American, I'm the foreigner." Then the clerk said, "That's not what I mean. Are you red, white, black, or yellow?" So I said, "Well, I'll choose yellow." She said, "It's blood that counts." And I said, "I changed my mind, I'll take red." And she said, "Under the laws of the state of Nevada, I must refuse you your license." And she smiled. And I said, "What is so sinister about a person of color wanting to marry a colorless individual?" The federal district judge did grant us our petition to be allowed to pursue life, liberty, and each other. And the following session of the Nevada legislature, the offensive law was rescinded. But it wasn't until 1967 that racial restrictions on marriage license applicants was lifted for the whole country. and that was a Supreme Court decision called Loving versus Virginia. In the 71 strike, President Nixon summoned Harry and Ed Flynn, the Pacific Maritime Association counterpart, that is the man on the other side of the bargaining table, to Portland. And Nixon said to Harry, well, why don't you send your guys back to work? And Harry said, gee, Mr. President, I would love to do that, but we have a democratic union, and we go back to work the same way we went out on strike, which is by a 2/3 majority of a secret ballot. So if you can get this Flynn here to put some goodies on the table that we can recommend, we might do that. And President Nixon said, well, if you can settle your differences within 10 days, I'll send Air Force One out and we'll fly you to Washington and we'll sign the contract at the White House. Now, I didn't know that Nixon had made this offer until Ed Flynn told me that's what had happened. Harry thought so little of trappings like Air Force Two that he never bothered to tell me about it. You have engines big and burnished, tall beyond my father's ken. All we have are men, master. All we have are men. Harry said, we didn't ask for a fighting chance. All we asked for was a chance to fight. And you put up a wonderful fight. I'm proud of you. Thank you.